This might sound a little odd, but I just finished watching a Netflix documentary. I'm obsessed with slash addicted to I love a good documentary, especially one that goes into that's just extraordinarily well produced, but also very academic, facts based, not a lot of personal opinion. That's one of my favorite things. And so I just finished one, and it was talking about the the key traits of what a psychopath is, and featured multiple interviews with convicted violent criminals and various kinds, and it also listed various traits that are associated with psychopathy, but also it reiterated multiple times throughout the sticky nature, the difficulty in kind of diagnosing a psychopath because of the fact that not all psychopaths are violent. Not all violent people are psychopaths, and just these weird confluence of details. But consistently kind of woven through it was antisocial behavior, apathy towards others, or the inability to understand or connect with other individuals' emotions, or to connect with others on an emotional level, treating other people as objects and means to ends for the purpose of the individual accomplishing their goals, and kind of doing whatever they want, the willingness to kill or harm those who stand as obstacles towards the accomplishment of goals, and a lot of avoidance behaviors as well, very at times very secluded behaviors, and I wonder out loud, this is a kind of a hot take, haven't really processed through everything I'm thinking about it, it's just something that struck me in the final act of it, is it comes to the end and it shows in all of the different convicted individuals, the incarcerated individuals, asks them directly, do you think you're a psychopath? And each one of them successively says no. Maybe a narcissist, maybe this, maybe that, but definitely not a psychopath. And even maybe a level of derision for the idea of being a psychopath. And I think that's kind of what triggered this thought, is social media breeding psychopaths, in that, or sociopaths maybe, in that people that are on, like, it's kind of a stereotype, it's a what do you want to say, an archetype of kind of the internet troll or whatever, the internet individual that we spend a lot of time in dark rooms, hunched over. It's actually damaging our spines because we hunch over so much, staring into our computer screens at work, and while we're on Netflix doing whatever it is we're doing, binge watching shows, and we're so leaned in that we tend to neglect our relationships with others, we tend to neglect our bodies, just like holding on to our urine for unhealthy amounts of time because you were waiting for the next commercial break, or for the end of the movie, or the end of the series if you're only 2 or 3 episodes short, like not eating, or just grazing, eating unhealthy foods, snack foods and things like that, which accounts for calories but not nutrients. Like, we tend to make these decisions because of our engagement with social media, but also it's been studied and it's been referenced and it's been cited over and over and over again that when I'm talking to you through a text message, if I'm talking to you through Facebook Messenger, comment streams, various other printed means like that on the internet, it is much easier to be misinterpreted because emotions don't come through. the written word in the same way, because when I'm writing with this intent, you can read those same words and receive a different message. So as a result, are we becoming in some ways like trained into psychopathy by the nature of that majority of our interactions with other human beings don't involve inflected speech, but that we have this barrier essentially erected between us so that that emotional expression, that inability to understand other people's emotions in a authentic way, and maybe even an unwillingness. Like, it's been talked about for the last 2 years essentially about how people are purposefully choosing to be offended, to accuse others of being offensive, by nature of just honestly in some ways wanting them to have those negative labels, calling them out, giving them names, ad hominem attacks and stuff, things that you would never say to another human being. Jimmy Kimmel's segment Mean Tweets is a perfect example of that as well, of that people will say mean, just aggressively hateful things about another human being that they would never say to that person's face, and that they would never say to someone that they care about. So this, I guess, so you have that emotional disconnectedness, you have antisocial or insular behavior, you could say even a lack of moral compass, because of the fact that people will advocate for violence against people they disagree with politically. They will advocate for violence or doxing or financial and other kinds of harm against another person because of claims they've made, of statements they've made, various other things like that, that you wouldn't, that the treating of other people or other platforms or other as a means to an end. I'm just going to talk about this because it's going to get me likes, it's going to get me footage, it's going to get me mentions, it's going to get me ats, whatever. And so it's, like I said, it's just an interesting kind of thought that I've had. But is it not necessarily creating psychopathy among human beings, altering their personalities maybe, but what if it's through behavioral modification? It's hamstringing and kind of creating like a pseudo-psychopath, sort of the behavior of, without necessarily the genetic or brain structure components that are consistent with psychopathy. We're just behaving like one, because part of the documentary as well talked about how they're trying to train people through reward and punishment, not to change the personality, even though that would be a great outcome, not to change the personality, but just to change people's behavior so that instead of them behaving with this kind of antipathy towards others, they will begin to act more empathic or pretend to be more empathic or sympathetic because of the promise of a reward. And is that what people are doing? Like, I'm going to treat other people nicely because it'll get me likes. Am I trying to be nice to the poor? I'm trying to do charitable work because I'll get shares on Instagram. Is that what I'm trying to do? Is it that? Is it that mechanism that they're trying to do where, but turned in the opposite direction? Is it that narcissistic thing, or, I mean, we're feeding our egos, treating, like, I don't know. Is it? Maybe, maybe not. Not saying that it is, not saying that it isn't. I'm just thinking maybe it is. Because of the fact that I guess the next statement would be, if that's the case, you need legitimate scientists to look into it. I'm not a scientist. But if that's the case, what does that mean for the next generation of human beings, that they've only ever experienced the world through this lens? So, I don't know, something to think about. If you agree or disagree, let me know. It's be something to talk about. Like I said, this is a very kind of ethereal thing. I haven't structured it all that well. I just finished the documentary less than 5 minutes, or the video's 10 minutes long, so about 10 minutes. So, love to talk about it. I have a strange brain, obviously. If this is nothing, then it's nothing, but if it is something, then it's something. So,